Okay, so let's talk about erythritol and safety, because I know I've made videos about it in the past, but a new study just came out today linking erythritol with an increased risk of cardiovascular events such as stroke and heart attacks, so I want to talk about it. Now, if you're not sure what erythritol is, it is a sugar alcohol. It is similar in sweetness to sugar, so about 80% is sweet as sugar, so it can be used most of the time in like a 1-to-1 ratio for a sugar replacement in recipes. It has only 0.24 calories per gram, unlike sugar, which has 4 calories per gram, and it does not get absorbed or digested in the body, so it has no impact on blood sugar or insulin levels. Now, what makes this very popular is it doesn't have an aftertaste, unlike some other sweeteners, and also it has very little impact on the GI system because it actually isn't digested in the body. It's absorbed into the bloodstream and excreted in urine. Now, studies in the past, they've found erythritol to be generally safe and has benefits too. They've been found to have an increased antioxidant content of erythritol. But this new study found that when we see erythritol in the bloodstream, it can increase basically the platelets being stickier, right? So what can happen is you're more likely to form blood clots. So let's look at the study a little bit more. So this study, what it is it's an association study, not a causation study, which means that they found a link between people who were consuming erythritol and an increased risk of cardiovascular events. But it does not prove that erythritol is the main cause. But it's absolutely something we want to pay attention to and look at in more detail. Now, the other thing to note about this study is that most of the study participants were already at a greater risk of cardiovascular disease risk. Potentially, they had a type 2 diabetes diagnosis or obesity or a wider waistline. So there were already risks in this group. But I think what's important to note too is that the population who tends to use erythritol the most, or who is recommended to use it, are also those who are trying to reduce their calorie intake or their intake of added sugar, which is generally people that are already at a high risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, because there have been many other studies that have not found this link between erythritol, and because this is an association and not a causation study, this is not something where I would say, let's make a blanket statement about the safety of erythritol. But it does call a big amount of attention to the need to do more research on sweeteners in general and look at larger term studies and longer term studies, because we can't take the findings of this and apply them to the general population, but more research needs to be done, absolutely. The other thing I would say is talk with your physician, your registered dietitian, if you do have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, to see if this is something that's appropriate for you to continue to consume or something that you might want to limit. But overall, I think the best strategy is just like we limit added sugar to less than 10% of the total diet, we should do that with all sweeteners, whether they're caloric or not, because too much added sweetener in general isn't the best choice. We want to get more whole foods too. So you don't have to avoid them, but keep it in moderation. And let me know what questions you have in the comments below.